Anxious and avoidant people both do a lot of what they do from a standpoint of fear. But the fear that avoidant people have is not the fear of being left. It's the fear of being smothered. It's the fear of having someone who now depends on me, and I know at some level I'm not going to be able to meet that need. Or they depend on me, and I know at some level I really don't want that.
This is Meredith for Real, the Curious Introvert, and I'm Meredith. I explore the questions people think but don't ask out loud, either because they're taboo or thanks to cultural hypnosis. My mission, and yours if you choose to accept it, is to inspire curiosity by exploring the nuance and paradox of our world. Each episode is different, so bring your ADD and your earbuds and have a look around. Hey Curiositors, it's me, Meredith. My last interview with Dr. Duana Welch was about helping single people escape the friend zone through science. It's episode 163 if you're interested. This conversation spreads the science love vibes to people who are coupled up to help figure out if their attachment style could be the cause of conflict in their relationship. She shares how to tell which attachment style you are, the difference between being secure and being codependent, mini marriages, and how to upgrade your attachment style. If you're a loyal listener, you know that I love episodes that give fresh perspective on problems that we tend to give a hall pass to. So thank you for pressing play today. And remember, if you think of someone you know while you're listening, share this episode with that person. It helps me grow the show and spread the message of curiosity. And if you're new here, welcome. Around here, we press play to get curious, disrupt the algorithm, and grow into better humans. We talk about everything from the paranormal to purity culture. So bring your ADD and your earbuds and have a look around. There's no specific order to listen to episodes. Do you know anyone who seems to have the same relationship over and over, but with different people? You want to say, bro, it's not them, it's you. Well, it turns out it's kind of all of us, and it's called attachment style. It's the backbone of how we interact in romantic partnerships and could be the core cause of conflict in your relationship. My next guest is a professor turned researcher who has contributed to NPR, PBS, and Psychology Today. Her specialty is the science of romance and helping people find their person using data. You may recognize her from episode 163, where we talked about the science of the friend zone. Today, we're going to help you identify your own attachment style and give you tips on how you can feel more at ease in your partnership. Dr. Abby on Science, newlywed and hopeful romantic, Dr. Duana Welch. Welcome back.
Meredith, thanks so much. I loved being on your show last time. I'm really looking forward to today.
Well, thank you. I do have a confession, though. Before preparing for this episode, I had really no concept of what attachment style even was. So can you kick things off by defining it in layman's terms for me and everyone else?
Absolutely. Actually, I thought you did a wonderful job. It's our habitual way of interacting with our most intimate others, and everyone has one. We have it by the time we're 12 months old with our caregivers. We can have one attachment style with our father and a different one with our mother, or one with one mother and another with a different mother, or one with our, adopted, whoever it is that cares for us when we're really little. But it tends to be fairly stable, at least from infancy to our early 20s. And in our early 20s, it really becomes about romantic attachment. So we start out attaching to our caregivers, and then we attach to a romantic partner. And it affects everything that we do. I'm amazed. I actually read research all the time. And for example, recently I found out it affects how attached we are to our dogs.
Really?
Like how close we express our dogs. People who are anxious tend to put their dogs at the very center of their lives, and other people don't. For example, their dogs are important to them, but they might not, for example, put it on a dating profile. Or sense of humor. People who are secure tend to have a form of humor that is maybe observational. It's funny without being mean. Other attachment styles, some of them have more pointed, mean-spirited humor or more self-deprecating humor.
Okay, so like every comedian ever apparently has an anxious attachment style because I'm thinking about some of my favorites, Bill Burr, Taylor, I can't think of her last name. They all have that sort of self-deprecating humor that's just kind of biting.
Some comedians clearly have an avoidant attachment style, and some clearly have an anxious attachment style now that I see that through that lens. I will say, I think Tom Papa seems pretty secure.
I'll have to look him up. He's not coming to mind right away, but I definitely want to define these different attachment styles. And maybe at the end, we can talk about ways to take steps in the direction of a more secure attachment style if you have some steps and tips to offer us. But let's start at the top. Let's start with the goal, the secure attachment style. What does that even look like?
Secure attachers, just like the name would imply, feel secure. They feel that relationally the world is safe. From an infancy standpoint, they probably had caregivers who met their needs when they needed them met, not on the caregiver's schedule. So, for example, they did not make them cry it out in bed. If their baby cried, they went and patted the baby's back or held them, or they didn't leave them to cry it out and say, you're 6 weeks old, deal with it. They actually met the child's needs when the child had it. By the way, I've had a lot of people say, isn't that spoiling children? No, they're not asking you for an iPad. They're asking you for love. That you can't spoil children with love.
That's so interesting. Can you have a parent that maybe I don't know what that style of parenting is called, the cry it out method, I'm not sure. But could you have potentially a parent who practice that but still have a secure attachment style?
Can, mostly because you would have changed it later.
Interesting. Okay. So what else would give us a clue that we have a secure attachment style?
Well, so secure attachers, everything they do in a romantic relationship, they do from a standpoint of feeling that they are safe, that their partner is safe, and that therefore everybody means well with everybody else. They're not very defensive. They expect things to go well, and that spills over into a lot of the ways that they act. So you are probably a secure attacher if you feel that if someone said, so is it actually part of your job description in your relationship? If you were describing your job in your relationship, is part of your job meeting your partner's needs and helping them to be happy? Non-secure attachers will mostly say no to that. They'll say things like, no, everybody's responsible for their own happiness. Secure attachers won't say that. And what's interesting is secure attachers embody a philosophy that currently is being called codependent, which is they believe they're responsible for helping their partner to be happy. And they're happy to take that on. And they don't see it as clingy or dependent or needy or any of it. And research shows the secure attachers have more sex, better sex. They feel close to their partners. They're happier. In other words, if that was codependent, we wouldn't see those positive outcomes.
Who's calling that codependent?
First of all, just Google it. You'll see lots of people that refer to anything that smacks of taking care of your partner or needing your partner to take care of you as codependent.
Interesting.
So, secure attachers don't believe that. Everybody else kind of does though. So, or they think they should believe it. They won't give the answer, oh yeah, I do see that as my job description, even if they kind of do. They feel bad about it. So if you feel that relationships are basically safe, intimate relationships are basically safe, and you think that part of your job description is taking care of your person, for example, your world stops if your person is unhappy.
Yeah.
If that's you, chances are very, very high that you're a secure attacher.
Okay. That's so interesting. I love that you brought in the perspective that some people feel that's codependent because that's outside of my spectrum of, knowing. And I'm glad that you brought that up. That'll make for some interesting post-episode discussion with some of my listeners. Let's talk about non-secure as an attachment style. Is it itself the style, or is it an umbrella under which these like subcategories, I think you said anxious and avoidant, live?
Avoidant. Yes. So broadly speaking, there are three styles. There are secure attachers. Everything they do is from the perspective of relationships are safe, and I'm here for that. Then there are anxious attachers. Anxious attachers really, really want what secure people have. They want it so much. Most things anxious attachers do, however, is not done from a place of safety. It's done from a place of wanting that safety, but feeling that they cannot have it. So the easiest way to say this is anxious attachers are afraid, and specifically what they're afraid of is being abandoned.
If the characters on Friends had to be categorized, what character on Friends would be an anxious attacher? This is how I interpret psychology.
I never watched Friends that much, so I'm not sure that I can really speak to that. I hate that I can't answer that question, but I actually didn't. I now watch TV a lot more than I did then.
Oh, hey, that's okay. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Maybe can you paint a picture of a scenario or story that would illustrate an anxious attacher for us?
We all know a person who keeps getting into what I call mini marriages. The relationship is super hot, heavy, and intense, and then it kind of poof, blows up and goes away. Okay. If that's the kind of relationship that you have again and again, if you kind of feel like you instantly emotionally bond to your partners before you really know them, that's a sign of anxious attachment. So I'm going to give myself as an example here because I have permission to give myself as an example.
Yeah, okay.
And I can give you details. So when I was in, and this happens based on experience, our issues happen because of experiences in relationships, whether with our parents or other people. And our issues are resolved or not in relationships with other people. In other words, you can work on your attachment style all by yourself, but the issue got there with other people. So usually it's going to be most helpful to deal with it with other people. So I had a boyfriend in high school and again in college that I had known since I was 10. My mom actually was his teacher in 5th grade. And when we were in college, we kind of got secretly engaged, and he had bought a ring, and he was going to come pick me up from my university for the holidays, and we were going to announce to our families then. Notice that we were going to. It didn't happen. The reason it didn't happen is he had fallen in love with somebody else and not told me about it. In the interim between when we had the conversation and when he came to pick me up. And I could tell just something was wrong. I didn't know what it was. He wouldn't tell me. He said he needed some time to clear his head. Really what he needed time for was to see if he was going to give the ring to her or to me.
Oh, Lord.
And so, so I realized that something was wrong. Now, at the time, I was super secure. And in fact, what I told him was, I've known you more than half my life. There's nothing else to know about me. There's nothing more here. This is either enough for you or it isn't. I'm moving on with my life. I'm not holding a place for you. If you decide that you want to come back, then you can work your way in if I'm still single. And if you don't, I will be moving on with my life. Sounds good, right? Not to say I wasn't hurt, but I wasn't devastated. The devastation came when he showed up at my dorm room on Valentine's Day with my ring on her finger.
Oh, I have so many follow-up questions that are not relevant, but wow.
Yes. Yeah. So this was possibly maybe the beginning of my interest in relationship science, although I didn't start looking into it right then. But when I started learning about attachment style, which wasn't till my 30s, and I'm a developmental psychologist, I knew about attachment style in infants.
Right.
But I did not know about it from a romantic standpoint. And I was a professor, and I decided I was going to teach all of my classes from a standpoint of relationship science, because we get trained for our jobs and we get such poor information about relationships. Most of the information out there in the world is just dead wrong. And so, which made me curious. I'm curious like you are. And I wanted my life to be better and ultimately other people's lives to be better. So I'm teaching about this. I'm reading about this. And I realized, oh my gosh, Duana, you are not secure. You're anxious. You're an anxious attacher. And this was when it happened. Now, how this affected my life? Well, I would instantly glom onto whoever I was dating after that. Like, I wouldn't actually know them well enough to make a long-term decision, but I would make serious decisions. Now, later things would blow up because that's another thing. Getting in these, again, this is my term for it, mini marriages, where you get emotionally and physically involved, and only then later do you ask the important questions. Only then later do you learn what could have been learned up front or could have been acknowledged up front, would have been a deal breaker, and not gotten in that, done things in a way that was actually more to your advantage. That's how I went through my 20s. I'm secure now. I've changed that, but it did take it took a big aha moment, and it took really learning a lot about this. I read science so you don't have to, is summary of all that.
Yes, which we're all very grateful for. So if I'm hearing you right, what you're saying is an anxious attachment style. You might be an anxious attachment style if you meet someone and you try on their last name, or you plan your, eternal life together, or, correct me on this one. Are you saying you might be an anxious attachment style if you move in too quickly together? Like if it moves too fast, not just in one relationship, but the habit of every relationship kind of burns hot and fast like that at first?
If your friends have ever told you, it seems like you get involved before you really know someone, or if you are now realizing that about yourself, that's usually an anxious attacher thing to do, to feel like this is it, and not to really know the person well enough to know, is this it? Yeah.
Let's pause for a quick break for our sponsors. When we come back, you'll hear the signs that you may have an avoidant attachment style, what happens when people of the same style get together, and how to upgrade your attachment style. If you ever wonder where I find guests for the show, the answer is it varies a lot. And since it's something that gets asked a lot, I started including the backstory of each episode in my Monday emails. And then on Saturday, I share cliff notes and clickable links in case what you heard was so good you wish you could have taken notes. If you want to be included, text REAL to 66866 if you're in the US, or go to meredithforreal.com if you're elsewhere. If you're listening north of the state of Georgia, mosquitoes are not top of mind right now. But if you're in the Florida Panhandle or Gulf Coast of Alabama, you're already dusting off your grill and citronella candles. Make life easy for future you and get your property scheduled for a mosquito treatment with Insect. I've been using them since 2019 and they continue to impress me. They guarantee their work and pollinators are always top of mind. Check them out at ensec.net. If you watch the show on YouTube, then you see the beautiful backdrop of Trader John's, the exhibit where I record the show inside the Pensacola Museum of History. This is just one museum under the umbrella of the UWF Historic Trust. If you're planning a trip to Pensacola and need an indoor activity option, pick up a ticket. It's good for a whole week. Get your tickets in person so you can show the agent one of my emails and get $2 off an adult ticket. Now back to the show. Remember to stay till the end where I give you a sneak peek of next week's episode. And then the avoidant. What are some signs that you're an avoidant attachment style?
So secure people feel that relationships are safe and everything they've done is from a place of feeling trust. They don't give all their trust away right away, but they trust that they have the skills and abilities to discern who's right for them. And then having made that determination, they're all in. Anxious attachers fear being abandoned, and they, even though they get invested very quickly, they do that because they're trying to get that sense of safety. But a lot of anxious attachers, even once they're in a relationship that can survive, they still feel scared they're going to be abandoned at any moment. I'm restating this because the fears are different.
Yes.
The fear of an avoidant person, it's fear. Anxious and avoidant people both do a lot of what they do from a standpoint of fear. But the fear that avoidant people have is not the fear of being left. It's the fear of being smothered. It's the fear of having someone who now depends on me, and I know at some level I'm not going to be able to meet that need. Or they depend on me, and I know at some level I really don't want that. And so I'm afraid of being smothered. And there are subtypes within avoidant. There are people who are avoidant because They're afraid of being needed too much, which is what I would like to focus on. And there are people who are avoidant because they just don't kind of see the point of intimacy. And the reason I don't want to focus on that is those folks don't tend to interact with my work at all, as far as I can tell. Intimacy is, well, I mean,
Yeah.
what do I do for a living? I'm all about the intimacy, and they're all about not the intimacy. So why would we overlap? It almost never happens. So if you are avoidant and fearful, probably you find yourself simultaneously feeling, I want to get close to you, but also I kind of want to hold you at arm's length. I'll give you an example from someone who allowed me to quote him for one of my books, because I have, as you know, 9 books out. And one is a short book just about attachment style, but then I have a longer book that I like much better that's much more recent, Love Factually, 10 Proven Steps from I Wish to I Do, updated and revised, much newer, better research. Well, anyway, this guy let me quote him. And what he said was, I loved it when my girlfriend would be over and taking a bath. She was in the same house, but at the same time, I knew nothing would be asked or required of me.
Ooh, interesting. Wow. Okay, that sheds a lot of light.
And that's it. Yeah, if you feel like I don't not want you, but I also don't want you right here in the heart of my heart. One analogy I give, I use kind of 2 analogies with clients because I see clients all over the world. And one of the analogies I use is with atoms. So if you're an atom and you live in the nucleus, do you want your partner in the nucleus with you, or do you want them you want them, but orbiting in the electron cloud?
That is the most sciencey, romantic analogy I have ever heard.
I know. I think tomorrow when I give my husband, tomorrow's Valentine's Day, I think tomorrow when I give my husband his Valentine's card, I'm going to say, I want you in the nucleus with me, baby.
Oh my God. I love this so much.
I know. I'm such a nerd. But my clients get it because, right, they hired somebody who specializes in relationship science to help them. We don't talk about science actually very much at all, but they know I'm advising them and helping them from that standpoint. And so if you want somebody right there in the heart of your heart, you're either secure or anxious. You're secure if that doesn't scare you. You're anxious if it scares you because you might get dumped at some point.
What I love about all of this is it's, I've been learning a lot about, we did an episode on alcohol use disorder. We did an episode about sex addiction. And at the heart of all these, including, I think, at some level, this attachment style, it's really you have to decide for yourself. Yeah, you could take some sort of, 5-question quiz online. I'm sure of it. I may or may not have tried to take one before we hopped on this call. But in your heart, you have to decide okay, where am I at and how am I behaving? You have to have that, connection between your actions and your motives for your actions. And then you decide where you go from there. Because as you're giving me these examples, I'm thinking of all these yeah buts, right? The stereotype about lesbian relationships is that they
rent a U-Haul.
Yeah. First date is renting a U-Haul, moving in together. And so I'm thinking, well, shoot, is every lesbian relationship, this anxious attachment style? And then you're talking about avoidant attachment style. And I'm thinking, yeah, but what about, most people live together before they get married and they keep their finances separate during that time. Sometimes even when they enter marriage, they continue to keep their finances separate. Does that mean they're avoidant? So what I love about what you're saying is the temptation to get lost in those yeah buts is there, right? But really what it comes down to is yourself, sitting with yourself and assessing your past and present behavior and deciding where you want to move forward from there. And that's really empowering.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I was a very anxious being, as my son would say. And I am not now. So, you look, it's fine if you decide you love your attachment style and you want to keep it. That's fine. I'm not saying, there's something gravely wrong with you, but I am saying most of the good things come to secure people. And the people I work with, they want all those good things. They want more sex. They want better sex. They want to feel closer to their partner. They want to find a partner that they feel close to. They want to stop being tortured by the feeling that I want a partner, but I'm too afraid to let them get close. And ultimately, ironically, that means that the relationships don't ever work because I'm pushing people away and ultimately they decide to leave. So, yes, what I'm talking about is looking at your basic motivation. If your basic motivation is, I'm doing the things I'm doing to avoid being abandoned, or I'm doing the things I'm doing to avoid being smothered, then that tells you pretty clearly where you're at in terms of your attachment style. And, I've come to have the most compassion for, I have compassion for everybody. We all struggle. And no matter what our attachment style is, everyone has struggles. And I want to emphasize, even if you are hearing this and you think I rate highly secure, which my husband does, everyone has areas where they don't feel confident. Absolutely everyone has areas of fear. This is not about whether you have some areas of fear. This is about whether you fear being smothered, you fear being left, or you feel that relationships are basically going to work out, and even if they won't, you'll be fine. And so I wanted to be in that third category of people. And I worked very hard to make that happen. And, I've come to have the most compassion for avoidant attachers because I always thought, because I've never been avoidant, I always thought, the least comfortable place for anyone to be is sitting on the fence, kind of in a relationship, kind of not. And then I worked with a bunch of people who have an avoidant style, and that was their most comfortable place. And the hard thing there is they never really feel comfortable, because if the person's all in with them, that's very scary. And if the person's all the way out, that's very scary. And if they're on the fence, they themselves are on the fence, their partner doesn't like that. Here's the sad truth. I used to say, wouldn't it be great if avoidant attachers formed relationships with other people who wanted a relationship, but at arm's length? Because one of my analogies is the atom analogy. Another one is the gas tank analogy. Avoidant partners are the Vespas of the relational world. They can go forever on a few liters or a couple of gallons, right? And secure attachers are like, your standard vehicle, standard gas tank. And anxious attachers are like the Humvees. Big gas tank, need a lot of filling. And the thing is, secure attachers, whatever size gas tank you have, if you're not secure, they think, let me help you with that. I'll be happy to give you more space. I'll be happy to, give you more gas than I myself need. Fine, not taking it personally over here. And everybody else takes it really personally. And so it's not necessarily under conscious control. So here's the thing. I would love for everybody to match with their own size gas tank, except that doesn't actually work in the real world. One study found that they looked for 4 years to see if avoidant people matched and stayed with other avoidant people, and they never found it happen. If it happened so briefly, they couldn't study it. So this is why I feel a lot of compassion for people who are avoidant, because really the choice is have a lot of turnover, different partners, or work on letting love in and feeling safer with it.
Yeah, and it is work. And you've alluded to that you were able to transition into a secure attachment style. What are some tips that you can give for people who want to upgrade their attachment style from unsecure to secure?
Yeah. The number one tip is to gain earned security. You don't have to have a secure attachment style from childhood. You don't have to have had only good experiences throughout your life, which is good news because none of us have only had good experiences throughout life. So the easiest way to get earned security is learn what secure looks like if it's not you, and only date people who are secure. That is, the moment you discover someone is not secure, move on, let them find someone secure as well, and you find someone who's secure. secure attachers make up like 60 to 70% of the people in North America.
Oh, that's
So,
good. So like the odds are good, because I was thinking, wait a minute, if there's not a lot of secure people and, dating and finding your person is already hard enough, then that would be really difficult. But that's actually very optimistic news.
well, good news, bad news. So the good news is, yes, most people are secure. The bad news is secure attachers tend to partner fairly young and stay attached. If my college boyfriend, childhood boyfriend, college boyfriend, if we'd stayed together, I never would have left. Right? Once I was anxious, I was in the mating market again and again and again. What tends to happen is secure attachers attach very quickly, not quickly. They attach to a person where it can really work. They have the skills and abilities not to take things personally that aren't. And their partner, usually, if they're not secure to begin with, becomes more secure, gets earned security, and the two then, go through life pretty happily together.
So
this is one of the reasons why most long-term married people describe themselves as very happy. Most of those couples have at least one partner who started out secure. So if you're repeatedly in the mating market and you're no longer in your 20s, you're going to start meeting a lot of people who aren't secure. My husband said, because I met him in 7 days, because of course, when I found myself single again, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do everything that I teach everybody else to do, which of course, by the time I was single, again, I knew so much more because I've been doing this 25 years. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go through the exact process I teach other people. I'm going to write a profile that's about them, not me. And I'm going to screen people really quickly. Now, I want to tell you, I only met 12 people on the phone. Like, only 12 people made it to the phone. Only 4 people made it to a first date. Only one of them made it to a second date. I'm now married to him.
I mean, that's
I have
odds,
And I was 52 at the time, which the odds of a person over the age of 50 ever marrying again, if she wants to, she's a woman and heterosexual, is 15%. So, I know how to put those odds more like 90% or 95%. And so I did that for myself.
So
while wearing almost no makeup and cutting all my hair.
Hey, I think that's pretty exciting. Yeah. So to upgrade from unsecure to secure, one of the things that you recommend is being very selective in what you call the mating market. Also love that description. That's so, I love it. So what else can we do to upgrade our attachment style? Let's say for people who are already in a partnership and they obviously have no control over their partner, but just of themselves, and they want to move into that better place emotionally.
Yeah. So if you are already partnered and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not secure, neither is my partner, I would recommend that you get a book called Love Sense by Sue Johnson, and you get emotionally focused therapy, EFT, together. Emotionally focused therapy. This therapy has about a half to 2/3 success rate in helping couples who don't have a secure attachment within the couplehood to develop one that is more secure. People can do things on their own to feel more secure. They can do things on their own to feel more secure. They can notice and redirect, for example. Noticing and redirecting is the term that I gave to a foundational cognitive behavioral therapy technique, which is everything I talk about is science-based. I'm not going to recommend anything that I don't know for a fact science has proven again and again and again to work in the real world. And so noticing when you're feeling discomfort and redirecting to what's really happening can help you to become more secure, but possibly not more secure in your relationship. There are some relationships where your partner isn't emotionally safe, right? The technique I'm talking about is not, Duana tells me how to feel great about a relationship that's totally unworkable. I'm not going to be able to do that if your relationship's really totally unworkable for you. But you can notice and redirect. You can notice, for example, my partner didn't hug me this morning, and that means he doesn't love me anymore.
So
Okay.
just kind of
I
becoming
noticed that
more aware of that like inner dialogue, the meaning that you're attaching to behaviors that aren't really, they're everyday behaviors and you're attaching like catastrophic meaning to them.
or yeah, if you're not secure, a lot of times the meaning is catastrophic. There's here's an example. Secure attachers, if their partner starts acting cold and distant, they don't normally think, oh, I must have done something. Anxious attachers do. They think, okay, what did I do? How can I fix it? I'm going to be left. So just noticing. By the way, just notice. I didn't say beat yourself up about it. You're a terrible human being. I want you to just notice, because it turns out when we beat ourselves up, we become more entrenched in whatever pattern it is we're trying to change. So gently notice. Understand you have this attachment style because it's there to protect you. What your attachment style is trying to do, it's like another person that dwells within you that's trying very hard to make your life easier, but it's just not working out that well for you anymore. So we don't want to tell that person, oh, you're a horrible human being. We want to say, they're there. Thank you. Thank you so much for telling me that. Thank you for telling me there might be danger. I'm going to now assess whether there is.
I like that a lot. I've heard that perspective in other, arenas where you you capture your thought and then you take a look at it and go, oh, little thought, thanks for trying to be helpful, but I'm good. I promise. On your way. Bye-bye. And it's even in my daily meditation, I will notice some random thoughts coming through and I just pretend like, do you ever push something out onto the water? Maybe not where you live, or yeah, maybe you do. And it just like the current catches it just right. And it just floats away so peacefully. And that's kind of how I imagine those, not intrusive thoughts, but the thoughts that just swirl around, like a little tornado, and I let them go. And so I really like what you're saying about being able to kind of put yourself back in the driver's seat of this area of your life, of romance and your attachment style, without beating yourself up, without you feeling like you've got another thing to do on your to-do list. But before we close, I would love for you to speak to how we can support our partners if maybe we're secure and we recognize that they may be an unsecure attachment style. Do you have any insight for that?
Acceptance goes a really long way. And secure people tend to be naturally accepting. I'm not sure I have a whole lot of advice for secure attachers, because the fact is they tend to naturally do the things that help. They're the people who say, when I'm in a conflict with my partner or when my partner's very upset, I naturally know how to help them calm down. So, which is a beautiful thing. One of the things you said that I really love is, first of all, research shows that meditation is enormously helpful for everyone. And it's interesting that the person who started doing a lot of research on meditation was somebody who didn't believe it was worth anything and then wound up being a major meditator. And I want to emphasize, I haven't told you the only ways to deal with this. I am learning new ways all the time, because very few people who come to work with me, very few of them feel secure. Most of them feel afraid. Relationships do not feel safe to them. That's a big part of the reason why they're seeing me. They're seeing me to help them not just find a partner or keep a partner, but feel safe while they're doing it. I'm not saying if you have a thought that is uncomfortable that you're wrong. I'm saying notice it and notice whether it's based in reality. If you notice that your partner is finding excuses to be away from you, and you notice signs that maybe they're having another relationship that you didn't know about, I would encourage you to investigate that if you have some data. On the other hand, if you have a history of thinking everyone's cheating on you, it's probably you. I recommend therapy. I recommend meditation. I've worked with a lot of people, they just don't want therapy. I'm not a therapist. I help people find and keep the love of their lives, which is therapy adjacent, but is not therapy. And so I recommend that a lot of people have therapy while they're working with me. Well, you know what? I work with a lot of people who they had a lot of therapy and it didn't work very well for them. So I've started looking into, okay, what can they do on their own that will help And one of the things is I've recently hired a couple therapists to evaluate a program with me that's online called virtualemdr.com. And it's eye movement desensitization to traumatic events or thoughts that a person has. And it helps you to maybe still have the thought, but it seems like it's really distant now. It's not really controlling you anymore. It's not the same thing as denying reality. You know what reality is, but you're more able to operate within the framework of reality because you're not overwhelmed with hurtful emotions and negative thoughts about yourself. And I've been having great outcomes with my clients who are using that and working with me simultaneously. Or there's a therapy called IFS, Internal Family Systems. So you have lots of tools. I would encourage you to, if you're not secure, I guess the big message is don't hope that's just going to magically change. You're going to need to make some effort. There are lots of different effective ways to make effort. And I encourage you to avail yourself of the one or ones that seem to make the most sense to you.
I love that. This is very, very helpful and very hopeful as well. Where can people find you online? And tell us where they can buy your book also, please.
Oh, sure. So you can find me at lovesciencemedia.com. Lovesciencemedia.com. And you can submit an email there, or my email address is there if you prefer to directly send an email. I answer every outreach that I get. And I also offer free 15-minute mini sessions to anybody who wants to just see if I would be a good fit. They want some extra feedback. And then the book that I recommend the most highly is Love Factually, 10 Proven Steps from I Wish to I Do. It's got the magnifying glass around the white heart. There was an earlier edition 8 years ago. This one is new. It has the latest and greatest information in it. So if you're dating, actually I've heard from quite a few people who said, I know you say this isn't for married people, but I read it and it really helped. So who am I to tell you not to read it if you're married? But it's intended for a single audience. It is updated and revised. And I advise getting that. You can get it pretty much anywhere. Any place will get it for you. Your library will get it for you. Your bookseller will get it for you. Obviously, Amazon's going to have it. It's out in audio, and paperback. I will tell you, a lot of people listen to the audiobook and they say they love it. I prefer paperback. This is a reference book. You're going to want to go back and find the parts that you want to look at and learn from and do the exercise if there is one. And paper is just, in my opinion, better for that, but you do you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Thank you very much. I have really enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening. Did you think of someone you know while you listened? Help me grow the show by sharing this episode with that person. And if you liked this episode, you'll also like the one about how to use science to escape the friend zone. It's episode 163. Stay tuned next week when I talk with a man whose drug dealer helped him quit drugs.